Hi, Scott.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, everyone.
We are live on YouTube.
Hi, Scott.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, hello.
Crazy feedback.
I think, Bob, make sure you turn the sound off for
Live on YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, that's what that was.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and begin tonight's special council meeting for Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Roll call, Ms. Myers.
Mayor Baker,
Here.
Member Volter,
Here.
Member Neary, Member Neary, Member Baszler,
Present.
Member Cornett,
Here.
Member Burns,
Here.
Member Lynn,
Here.
City Administrator Giffen,
Here,
City Attorney Edge,
Here.
Once again, we have a full house. I always appreciate everybody making time to be here, so thank you very much. Now I'd like to do a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. So a moment of silence first, please. And we could use the flag behind my left shoulder here for the pledge. No need to stand unless you like to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Of course, the only reason we don't stand for that is you'd just be seeing pictures of our pants. So no disrespect there. Do we have any, Mr. Giffen, do we have anything that came in through the emails for audience participation for this week?
I didn't. No, sir, I did not receive anything.
Okay, with that moving along, I'd like to move along to the mayor's report. There are a few things I would like to report this month. First of all, recent national events have once again brought racism to the national spotlight. The city of Dayton, Kentucky wholeheartedly denounces racism in all of its forms. The city mourns the deaths of Lavillian Breonna Taylor and George Floyd of Minneapolis. And Dayton, as the rest of our nation, is made up of many diverse races, nationalities, and religions. And we believe that the inclusion of all these builds a stronger city for generations to come. And we will continue to work alongside our neighbors, staff, and elected officials to ensure that everyone feels welcome and safe to live, work, and play in Dayton. This past month, we were also very proud of Dayton's high school graduating class of 2020. We had a drive-through parade. It was great, and I truly appreciate those who worked together to make it happen. And the whole city is excited for their class, and we cannot wait to see what lies ahead of them. So go Devils. As far as the coronavirus, it's obviously giving everybody still a wrench in our cogs, and we're working closely with our state leaders and as it pertains to how we operate as a city. We're following the direction of the state law as it pertains to reopening. And we're starting to see our restaurants fill back up. As of this week, our parks now have bathrooms back open. Gill, Lynn, and Sergeant Park. It's a popular place to get out and find some trails and find some air. And we've added some lights and picnic tables around town to give more of an outdoor dining experience to those who want to grab carry out from one of our mini restaurants. So please get out there, support our local restaurants, and socially distance, and let's get summer back to more of a normal atmosphere. And lastly, for my mayor's report, it's been quite a year working alongside Northern Kentucky Water District and Sanitation District Number 1 to fix issues on the underlying infrastructure of Irvin Terrace. And over the last few weeks, work's finally been completed. Irvin Terrace is now finished, and it's probably, I'd put it up to bet to one of the smoothest streets in Northern Kentucky. All this was accomplished with very little tax dollars that was spent by Dayton. Most of it was taken on by Northern Kentucky Water District and Sanitation District Number 1. So we want to give, as a city, big thanks to both those organizations, our own public works who worked alongside those organizations to make sure that this went as smooth as it could, but more importantly, to the residents of Irvin Terrace, because over the last year or many, we've endured many days of uneven roads and construction. The project is a success, and it's going to be enjoyed by residents by many years to come. So we're truly appreciative of everyone's understanding and patience on this project. Please enjoy the road, drive it safely, and mind your speed. That is my mayor's report for the month of June. So now I'd like to move along to the approval of minutes for April 21st, 2020 and May 5th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve minutes from both meetings.
Mr. Ranieri made the motion for both meetings. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by member Cornett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Moving along to the ordinance and orders, we have the first reading of 2020 number 5, the amending and regulating the use of motor vehicles as it relates to littering. Ms. Myers?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2020 number 5. An ordinance amending and regulating the use of motor vehicles as it relates to littering and the release of foreign matters onto city streets and sidewalks. This ordinance amends the penalty for violation of the city ordinance 94.01, throwing litter from a vehicle, 94.02, tracking foreign matter on streets, and 94.03, hauling loose material, to a civil offense with penalty of $75. If said penalty is not paid or timely appealed, said fine shall increase to $150. This ordinance further adds a requirement that any vehicle equipped with a device suitable for prevention of spillage shall ensure such a device is covering the load area of the vehicle, regardless of whether the vehicle is carrying a load or is empty. The penalty for violation of this ordinance is similarly set as a civil fine of $75. And if said penalty is not paid or timely appealed, said fine shall increase to $150.
And that was a first reading. We also have the first reading for 2020 number 6, the 2021 budget. Ms. Myers?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2020 number 6, an ordinance adopting the City of Dayton, Kentucky's annual budget for fiscal year July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the city to the full extent authorized by KRS 82.082 and the interpretive case law. This ordinance adopts the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 for the General Fund, Municipal Aid Fund, Parks, Economic Development, TIF, Capital Outlay, and the Sergeant Park Fund.
That also was a first reading. Along to the first reading of 2020 number 7, amending the 2019-2020 budget.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2020 number 7, An ordinance amending the City of Dayton, Kentucky's annual budget for fiscal year July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the city to the full extent authorized by KRS 82.082 and interpretive case law. This ordinance amends the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 for the general fund.
And finally, order 2020 number 7R, accept the post-COVID-19 action plan.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, Resolution 2020-7R, a resolution supporting and adopting the city post-COVID-19 recovery plan. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact across the city of Dayton, and whereas the city desires to plan and work towards recovery for the health, safety, and welfare of all of its citizens, now therefore be resolved that the mayor and the city council, that the city of Dayton supports and adopts the city of Dayton post-COVID-19 recovery plan attached hereto and incorporated herein.
And this is a second reading, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We pass resolution 2020 number 7R.
The motion's been made by member Lynn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by member Volter. That opens the motion or the order 2027R up for discussion. Anybody like to have any comments concerning this?
When do we determine when this is over?
Great question.
Well, I mean, there's no real, I guess, definitive end date at this point. I would assume the most urgent of it being when the state of emergencies are lifted by the city and state. But I think we all know that even if that comes sooner than later, there's certainly the potential for this thing to last a while. So I would imagine it would be intact for perpetuity. But keep in mind that it is meant to be an evolving plan. So as things change over the course of the next few weeks or months, or even a couple years, it's something we'll constantly take a look at, and we can constantly use to help the administration and the city council to use it as a tool to adopt anything that you all might find necessary in order to help the city as it is deal with crisis.
Any other questions or comments concerning order 2027R? Going once, twice. Roll call, please, Ms. Myers.
Member Baszler,
Aye.
Member Cornett,
Aye.
Member Burns,
Aye.
Member Lynn,
Aye.
Member Volter,
Aye.
Member Neary.
Aye.
Unanimous that order 2027R passes. Now move on to the city administrator's report. Mr. Giffen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one update, and it's a good update. I just wanted to let you all know that the first of 3 phases that we expect to break ground this summer at Manhattan Harbor should happen. It either happened this afternoon or it will happen as early as tomorrow. The first phase should get underway. This first phase is going to be single-family attached homes. These will kind of be buffer zones for the west end of the single-family lots and the east end of the single-family lots. And will kind of serve as the first step of a transition, both on the west and the east side, into a higher density development. So therefore, the second and third phases of these new developments, which should start this summer as well, will be 5 and 8 family units. So this is exciting. A lot of stuff has been gearing up to this point. This is what we worked for the last year or so on, and working with the school board and working with the developer and getting them to close on this land that happened sometime in the middle of the COVID crisis. It's all blur, so I forget the exact date, but very exciting that the momentum is really picking up down there. So just to kind of be on the lookout for some more activity down there. That's all I have, Mayor.
I have a question. I have a question for
Michael.
Mr. Giffen on this. A couple months ago, Mr. Sullivan came to council asking for a variance on the setbacks. Has that been resolved? And if so, how?
It has not been resolved, but I don't think it's necessary any longer. I haven't spoken to him about it in a while, and the last time I did speak to him, it seemed like it wasn't necessary. If something changes, I will get back with you, but they certainly can't do anything in those areas as it pertains to building on our land, but that's doesn't seem to be the case. So if he does come back and he needs it, it's something that I'll speak with the mayor and Tom Edge on and certainly keep you on the loop. But as of right now, I don't think it's going to be necessary.
All right, thank you.
Michael, what's the update on the O'Fallon apartments?
They're coming together. I don't know. Brandon said when I met with them last week that they expect to start leasing as early as next month. So I haven't been on the inside in quite a while. Obviously, you can tell that the outside's made some progress. Still has some ways to go, but I think they're getting pretty close to starting to rent them out. Apparently they're finished on the inside from what I've been told.
I'm not trying to put any heat on you, but you told me last month they was going to start leasing in June. Now, are we talking about July?
Well, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the middle here. I'm just relaying information.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Michael, any update on them getting the outside of that cleaned up on Walnut Street?
I talked to them about that. If that hasn't been done, if you've seen that today, then I'll ask him again. But he said they're supposed to have a crew down there.
As of yesterday, I didn't go down today.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Any other questions for the city administrator?
Well, I hate to bring this up.
Please do.
I hate to throw cold water on what you reported earlier, Mr. Mayor. But yes, Terrace looks good, but the way our citizens were treated during the process was not good. The no parking signs were posted for 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. All of our residents moved their cars, which you know that's a feat on Terrace. Nobody showed up. Those signs were posted for Thursday, and at 7:30 in the morning, they were banging on doors for people to move their cars. People had to run out and move their cars, and they were told they might be able to get back into their homes. One lady had to leave and go somewhere in 3 hours. It was 10 hours later. Somebody on the work crew dumped debris in our citizens' garbage cans. One lady couldn't move her can, it weighed 50 pounds. So the neighbor had to help her. So if the water company was in charge of that, yeah, the job looks good, but the communication during the process was horrible. So, you know, they need to be made aware of that.
I appreciate that, Mr. Volter. If there's any communication discrepancies, I'll take the blame for those. I mean, at the end of the day, the buck does stop here, and I again appreciate the patience of residents of Urban Terrace. There was at the last hour when we were milling and beginning to pave, found faults underneath the subset of the infrastructure that could cause major problems, which put an extra day in there as those were figured out and who to pay for them. And again, I'm not trying to take any.
I'm aware of that.
I'm not trying to take any blame off the communication. I truly am not. But I do again recognize the efforts that we had to do at the last hour to save Dayton taxpayers dollars and get a solid project. But again, I'm not taking any heat off myself for that. There could have been a better communication. It was last hour, and I truly appreciate the patience of Urban Terrace, because I drove it 2-3 times a day. I never had to pick up a garbage can, but you say it happened. I trust you.
Well, maybe we ought to send them a letter thanking them for their patience and apologizing for the inconveniences. I'm just saying that might go a long way to every resident along there.
Mr. Giffen, would you please make sure we do that this week?
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your comments. Any other questions for Mr. Giffen?
Is there going to be, on that same topic, not on the Urban Terrace topic, it hasn't rained since they got it done. So we don't know how the stormwater is really going to flow on that. We have a good idea from their planning and everything, but if there are any problems, what kind of follow-up or remedies can we get, and how quickly, from SD1 or the paving company? Are they still on the hook for that, or do we have to fix it?
Well, what sort of problems are you referring to? Like stormwater problems? Are you talking about like road issues, underlying road issues that matter? What if you just clarify, I can answer.
Well, like I said, it hasn't rained, so I think we got a 1/4 of an inch the other morning real quick. But if we were to get a heavy rainstorm, we find out that some of the water is flowing the wrong way because of a crown in the road. We still have that problem on Dayton Road or Dayton Pike, where the crown is not going the right way. If you were to discover any issues like that moving forward, do we have to fix them, or is the paving company and water company responsible for that?
Well, it's tough to say. It's just something we're gonna have to monitor at the moment. If it's remember, if it's a stormwater issue, kind of our involvement with the project came in that when the water company was going to open up the road, we thought it was a good opportunity for us to work with SD1 on doing everything we could to improve stormwater mitigation. Now, I'm not saying we solved the problem, but I think what we could do within our limits of where the utilities were, we tried to put in as much infrastructure as we could to certainly help the people downhill. If it becomes an issue on that end, there's not anything really any of the utility companies are going to do. We may just have to look at if there's anything else that we can do in that area in the future to improve it. Hopefully the changes we made drastically improved it, but I'm not claiming victory that we solved the Urban Terrace water problem. But if it has to do with road elements, I wouldn't imagine, as long as they put everything to specs, that we'd have much of a fight in terms of getting them to redo the road. But if it's something that we're seeing in real life that's affecting the flow of the water much differently than it was before in a negative way, then we can certainly approach them and see what course of action we can take. But without seeing it, we're just going to kind of have to wait and see. And whatever problem is there, we'll kind of have to address it individually. If it's an underlying issue with the road, then I certainly think we have an argument that all the water main breaks that occurred over the years could still be responsible. But I'm hopeful that everything that they did along the water main area, and even in areas where the water main wasn't being replaced, but obvious washed out areas were present, that those have been filled in. And I think the last underlying problems that kind of reared their head occurred during the milling process. And that's a pretty intense process in terms of pressure on the road. And a couple of instances, it did reveal some issues, and that's what kind of came up at the last minute that added some substantial cost to the road that the water company had to figure out where they were going to get that funding. So I'm hopeful that there aren't any underlying issues. Obviously, no guarantees. We'll just have to look at whatever issues arise, look at them individually, and see how they can be fixed and who.
Well, I just want to clarify on this, that from Belmont all the way down to 10th Street, it's my understanding that every water main or every water connection going to each property and each sanitary connection all of those were replaced under the roadbed when they were reconnected, correct?
I don't believe all of the sanitary, what SD1 wasn't a part of this project. They, like us, saw the opportunity of the road being exposed to get in and do some work at the same time. And that's kind of what led to the project taking as long as it did is we and the water company and the sanitation district were trying to do some individual work there as well while the road was open. The alternative was, the water company might have been able to finish the project in December and it would have been repaved and it would look great. But then the city and or SD1 would have had to come in at another time and dig up the road. And all of a sudden you've got a brand new looking road that's got scars all in it. It's mostly an appearance thing, but it does start to create uneven surfaces. I think what SD1 did, and I can get clarification, is they just identified several of the properties, and I think they were closer to the bottom, towards the bottom section of Irvin Terrace that had substantially inadequate lateral line service. And I think that's what they repaired. So it wasn't to every home. The water main was. The sanitation district was a select few.
I just know that it always comes up when we're gonna pave a street. And then like Bill always says, it always happens. 6 months later, they're digging up the street again for some kind of a break.
Yeah, and that probably would have been SD1 this spring, or shortly in the future, they would have been in there. And ultimately, that's what caused the delay, was they were the first ones that had to get in this spring. Therefore, the water company couldn't finish their work, and obviously the paving company couldn't finish theirs until SD1 completed it. And obviously, we ran into some stretch of some wet weather. Not making excuses for anybody, but it's what ultimately started to delay it farther into the spring. But it is done. It looks good. Hopefully, all the underlying issues are taken care of. Hopefully, the stormwater measures that we put in will drastically help. And I too appreciate the patience of the folks on Irvin Terrace. I know it was a huge inconvenience.
Thank you.
Do you have any other further questions for Mr. Giffen? Irvin Terrace or anything really? Going once, twice, closed. As we move towards adjournment, I want to make a comment. Tonight we had the first reading of the budget. The budget is posted on the website. We will be doing further updates to the website for the budget line items, so the public can see where their tax dollars go. If you guys or if any of the public have any questions, please direct them to info@daytonky.com. We'll do the best to address them. Once again, these are crazy times. I certainly hope they're coming to an end, as I imagine all of us do. So I really appreciate City Council for once again joining like this in our homes and our away offices, not in front of each other. Hopefully we can get back to everything normal again. That being said, we are now to the adjournment portion of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Member Volker made the movement. Seconded by Mr. Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? We look forward to seeing you next month for Dayton City Council. Stay safe, Dayton.
See you, everybody. Thanks.
See ya.
See you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.